As I'm listening to this latest tape, I'm wondering, what can I call it? What can I call episode 5? Immediately what comes to mind is sex, drugs, and hung like a mule, or tied up and hung like a horse. Joey Ramone passed the catch-up. New Year's with the Rolling Stones. So many different things can come up. But as usual, there's danger. There's illicit drugs. Sean is just finishing high school as we conclude this episode, and he continues to claim to be one of Silicon Valley's largest providers of the green and white, while his brother is a rock star and friends to all bands, while being the younger half of a couple who create and distribute crystal meth. So it's not short on action. It's not short on pace. You can tell Sean's losing a little bit of stamina as he's not giving us all the details, and you're itching to hear who he might be really talking about when he says he's not naming names, but he gives us categories like politics and sports and rock and roll. So one day I'm going to find him, man, and I'm going to ask him, and maybe he'll give us those names. We'll see. All right, enjoy the tape.
I'll remind you that my new company, Gardening and Painting, to all the other real estate agents at Coldwell Banker, was a success, and very quickly, in only 5 minutes during that meeting. I had made 20 clients, always keeping me busy. Not so much me, because I hired 10 workers with 5 trucks to work for me. It was gold. My employees did all the work, and I made most of the money. I was an entrepreneur, had my own legal business. It was a good cover, front, if you will, to explain all the money I had from my other illegal business. Thinking once again that I had washed my hands of this crazy life, I was pulled back in. I don't know how this happens to me. I'm like a worm on a hook. I'm bait. I'm just getting swallowed up. My new friend Corey, the last person you would think has the prom queen as his girlfriend, well, he also was the man. Not for only Palo Alto High School, but Stanford University, in what was at the time the original Silicon Valley, Palo Alto, in the 80s. Anybody and everybody in one way went through him directly or indirectly, because all the green and white went through Corey in this town. My eyes lit up like a Christmas tree. I knew if I could only sell him my shit, but more so his contact. I wanted both. It was 2 for 1. With just 2 clients in one shot, I could make 10 times what I was making with my gardening and painting business. I couldn't say no to opening Pandoras Box once again. One thing led to another, and I did just that. I got both Corey and his supplier. It was a large order. First, I had to go back to Los Gatos to see Johnny, get the samples for my new potential clients. It was my policy to always give a sample for free, with nothing to lose as far as the client was concerned. It was like fishing. You put that worm on the hook, it's just a matter of time before they bite. And I get the big fish. My shit was the best quality and price. I knew that, as did they soon after receiving it. Johnny was so happy to see me back the first time, and more so when I came back the second. I had a lot of money for a lot of shit. He told me I work fast. 1 week in the new town and you already dominated. You own it. That place is in your pocket. You're good, kid. Yeah, I know. I was born this way. I make this shit look easy, but it's not. He answered, tell me about it. Nobody understands. Nobody gets us. People will never understand the kind of life we live, but somebody has to do it. It might as well be us. I did just that. I kept my business with Coldwell Banker. Johnny and Corey, I told them like the others before him, to never mention my name. He would give the stuff to his previous contact because I didn't want to see anybody or anyone know who I was. Again, I found myself the new kid in town, and I wanted to keep it that way. New, and nobody knows anything about me. I love to be invisible. It's only my first week here in Palo Alto, California. And look at me. Already same shit happened to me in Los Gatos. But this time, I had a real job painting and gardening and going to Palo Alto High School. Life was going great, not only for me, but my mom. She had sold her first house and made a good commission. She made some fast money. And this doesn't always happen in the real estate business. It's not like buying a bag of chips or something. When buying a house, it's the biggest investment in your life. Selling property involves a lot of patience. I learned this in my life. It's important to be patient. Take your time, do it right. I tried to do everything right the first time, so I wouldn't have to do something twice. I believe in quality, no matter what it is we're talking about. Palo Alto is just that. What a life here. It's great. As I continued school, I found myself at Corey's house hanging out with him, his girlfriend, and some other friends he had there. He told me he had deliveries to make, and if I could keep an eye on his place and answer the phone until he got back. I told him I'm okay with it. A short time later, the phone rang. It was a wrong number. She had called, but didn't ask for Corey. I don't know how, but her and I ended up having a conversation. It turned out she was my neighbor and went to my high school. I told her my name, and she told me her name was Kathy McCowan, her dad a dentist. We decided to eat lunch together at school the next day. It was love at first sight, and we became boyfriend and girlfriend, ended up going out with each other for years. I would stay with her until going to Santa Cruz University, only to have her leave me for the Prince of Barbados, who was a student at school. So, not only was I de-virginized by a princess, but like in fairy tales, she became the Princess of Barbados. But this is another story for another day, so let me continue with mine. Working, going to school, and now with a girlfriend. Wow, this is a first. And all because she called Corey. I answered the phone, and it was a wrong number. Imagine that. I always say that the Lord works in mysterious ways. Being in love changes everything. My whole life changed, as everyone would agree with me. I had to sell my 1955 Chevy when leaving Los Gatos because I never told my mom about it to begin with. I sold it to my neighbor with this 1969 GTO, so it went to a good home. Kathy's neighbor had a 1978 Gold Duster, Plymouth, Dodge, one owner, mint condition. So this time I asked my mom for permission to buy a car. She said yes, and I did just that. I bought it for $800. I now had a cool, fast car. I put some really nice mag tires and chrome rims with a nice stereo in it. The car was so Dukes of Hazzard. I would jump the piles of leaves like a ramp every Tuesday. The city would sweep up the streets of Palo Alto, make big mountains of leaves every 10 blocks. I would drive over the leaves as fast as I could, and the car would jump over them like Evel Knievel. It was fun. My new friend, the jock, great football player, got in a car accident, a DUI, which is driving under the influence. He was drunk. He was now paralyzed on all his left part of the body, obviously never to play football again. He was able to continue school, just now not as a rock star that he was before. Most of his friends faded away. I always remained to be his true friend, and still am today. It was Saturday night. All of us had a party at Corey's. He had his own place and still in high school. He was the only one. All of us still lived with our parents, but not Corey. I never asked him why. I didn't talk much. After Corey's party ended so late, I told my mom the night before that I would be spending the night at Corey's. I woke up that early Sunday morning with the front door being smashed in and someone also crashing through the window only to land on my chest. This guy had a mask and a shotgun in my face. I was sleeping on the sofa, not any longer. I was scared shitless. This guy tied up my arms behind my back so fast. He told me to get up and shut up. The other guy that came crashing through the door, he went to the back of the house to get Corey. We found ourselves together at gunpoint. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? They told us that this was a robbery. They wanted Corey's money, green and white. They put the gun to his head, yelling at him, "Where's the shit? Where do you hide it?" I told him, just give it to him. Tell them where it was. He said he didn't have anything and didn't know what they were talking about. They then stripped us naked and threw us both in the bathroom. I thought we were dead. And how weird to be naked, more so with Corey. I now knew why he had the prettiest girl in school. Man, he was hung like a horse. And even such strenuous conditions. Whereas I was half the size and certainly under these circumstances. Here we were tied up in the bathroom. And we could hear the two men with guns and masks outside destroying the house, looking for the money and the dope. They were smart to take our clothes. I never thought of that one before. By the time we were untied, the first thing we wanted to do was kill them. We didn't even take the time to get dressed like they were thinking. We chased their asses out of the door butt naked. We didn't give a fuck. No embarrassment. Even though we were completely woken up, out of surprise, hungover, me with this guy's knees on my chest, with a potato sack over his face, and a shotgun shoved in mine. Good morning. What a fucking way to wake up. Now, after had woken up, disgraced, stripped of my clothing and manhood, I was fucking pissed off, ready to die at that moment. But take these motherfuckers with me. Corey and I chased them out of the house, down the street. Before you knew it, there were police. They told us to freeze. We yelled at them. We were just robbed. They were getting away. Go after them. They told us to get to our knees and to put our hands in the air. We were under arrest for indecent exposure. We explained to them the situation. They threw us in the back of the cop car, handcuffed. They gave us a ride back to our house, only 2 blocks away. Saw the door kicked in, the window broken, and concurred our story was true. The cops said they were sorry that the robbers had gotten away, but they had received a call from the neighbors that they had seen 2 naked men running down the street yelling, and nobody saw the assailant, the robbers. They were invisible compared to you, 2 naked crazy kids. That the only thing everybody saw. Listen, kids, we're going to let you go home, get dressed, and stay out of trouble. We can do a police report if you want, but the odds realistically of us finding the robbers are slim. It's sad but true. This is the world we live in. The 1970s are gone. It's now the 80s. It's just the way it is. Not to mention you're naked. Do you want this in a police report? We all agreed to just wash our hands of this. The whole incident. Just walk away and make it go away. That's just what we did. Corey and I knew that they had taken all the money, green and white. That's why we weren't worried about the police. We were more preoccupied about our freedom, let alone still being alive. The adrenaline had slowly dissipated, and we just wanted to get dressed. Corey and I made a pact that we never speak of this again. We were thankful to be alive. We both knew it. Could have been worse. I told him nobody knows who I am. I'm just the new kid in town. But you, my friend, everybody in town knows who you are. Why don't you try to keep a low profile? And this kind of shit won't happen. I only tell you this out of all due respect. But if we're going to continue hanging out, being friends, I can't jeopardize myself or my family. And I have, if you know what I mean. I know it sounds dramatic, but I think you had better move from this house to another. You're only renting it. Just pack your shit up and go. And don't let anyone know where you live. It's the only place on the planet where you can kick back and relax. And so can I. Your family and mine, not to mention our girlfriends. You have to admit we're both lucky to have them. Let's not put them in any kind of danger. Anyway, I'm tired. I just want to go home. I'll see you tomorrow at school. No more business for a while. Let things cool down. Let the soap opera die down around you. Because it's not me, man. Keep a select few clients. We will continue our arrangements, as always. But have someone you trust to keep their mouth shut. To work the other clients. We both agreed. It was the next weekend that Corey had found another place in Palo Alto to live. This was an important place for all of us. So we helped Corey move. He was our good friend. Speaking of which, I had Randy Delacruz with his van to help. Also Dean Mayo. came from Los Gatos. My bro and his friend, Dano, a preppy-looking kid, and Matt and Dave, the complete opposite, looked like a couple of tweakers, to be honest with you. It was great to have all my friends together in one place. After a lot of working, moving, and setting up the house, it was Saturday night, and my bro was playing at the Keystone here in Palo Alto. We were, all of us, of course, invited to see him open up for one of the many bands that played for the Stone in San Francisco and the Keystone here in Palo Alto. Metallica, White Zombie, UFO, Slayer, Exodus, Death Angel, Motorhead, Smashing Pumpkins, Pantera. Every band you can think of before and after filling stadiums would play in these two clubs. Bill Graham, the man, he knows his rock and roll. We would go in and out of these two mid-sized clubs like everyone else in California, certainly the Bay Area. The best show, the best times. My bro, inventor of glass, running with the Hells Angels, also rock and roll, kept him very busy. I also loved to be by his side, going from one city to the next, by his side at every show, every practice. My bro opened up for so many bands, A through Z. I remember most the Ramones, kicking backstage with them. It was cool. We were all eating hot dogs, hamburgers. Can you imagine asking Joey Ramone to pass the ketchup? The whole band was so cool, like all of the bands my bro had the pleasure of opening up for. But there's something to be said about the Ramones. My bro was so fucking nervous. He usually wasn't like this, but again, it's the fucking Ramones. We had just finished eating with them at the table, and it was now time for my bro to open up for them. I accompanied my bro after splitting a quick bottle of JD, Jack Daniels, opened up the curtain, looked at all the people. My bro threw up all over the stage. He was so fucking nervous. As the half a bottle of Jack and a quick bump of the glass, the adrenaline flowing, he was ready to rock and roll. The fans fucking loved him and his band. They were tight and clean. Rocked the whole fucking place. Good job, bro. How often do you get to eat, drink, party, and open up for the Ramones? Gotta love it. Of course, backstage and the after party with them. Like every other rock and roll band, A through Z, they all played at one of these two clubs. And again, my bro opened up for them all. What a life. My little bro, the big rock star, in more ways than one. They were clients. We made money. Everybody was making money. Who wasn't in our small but very big circle? Only a few were at the top, like us. We were living the life that most only dream about. This was our reality. I remember not only the shows, but obviously more the parties involved, before, during, and after. They are the best times, rock and roll and the party. What a ride, as I found myself with my bro going to the Berkeley Hills, 1 hour from where we were in Palo Alto, also San Francisco, is the same distance. Everything's close to each other. in the Bay Area. That's what's so great about Silicon Valley and its surroundings. It's gold. That's why it's the most beautiful place in the world. Certainly top 10, as was the green and white. I was running, and the glass was my bro. In the hills is where Patty lived. We were all teenagers or in our early 20s, the end of the 70s, and only the beginning of the 1980s. Patty was more from the life of the 1960s. She was in her 40s. We were all half her age, but nonetheless, Patty, known as Big Mama, was the cook for California. Meth, yellow. You follow me? Don't get lost on me. You gotta follow me on this story. Pay attention. My bro who would take the yellow shit, dirty, he would make it crystal, clean, transparent, a whole different level. Something most people had never seen before at the time. It was a thing of beauty. The two of them working together, hand in hand together, like an orchestra, a thing of beauty. Unexplainable, like only the music without the words. I'm doing my best here. Between glass with the Hells Angels, yellow was taken to glass, white was now rock that you could smoke, as well as the glass, which could go either way, in one product without any transformation. We had flooded the market with something completely new, with blow and meth. Remaining with a low pro at all times, nobody knowing anything about us, as everyone was getting recognized by name with a lot of respect and fear. Mafia, the Mexican cartel, the Hells Angels, the Crips, the Bloods. Everyone marking their territory in the business. Not me and my small network of the above previously mentioned names. My circle was invisible. I remember this house, big on the corner, on top of the hill. No neighbors, plenty of privacy, secluded in the Berkeley Hills. It was the perfect place to cook. Nobody around to smell the shit. In the process, it stinks. Anyone who knows this smell understands what I'm talking about. You can't do this anywhere. We were not stupid, quite the opposite, very smart. You had to be in this business, like a machine. We all worked together to make it happen, to make it work, from beginning to end as far as the process goes. But always remember being invisible, undetected from anyone, in and around us. We didn't want any of this stuff coming back to us. This was 40 years ago. I remember back then it was 25 years to life in prison, which might as well be life in jail if you're looking at 25. We all took this shit very seriously. It was a business, our lives, and more important, our friends' and families' lives at stake. This was no bullshit. Like any serious business, it had to be taken that way. It was a matter of life and death. This was a process that took a lot of time. Let's just say it's a family secret recipe, like Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC, or Coca-Cola giving up their secret ingredients. And how do you make meth? Then turn it into glass. It's like my invention of rocks. Just mix it up with baking soda and cook it It's a lot more than it's like an art. It's being a chemist, a chef, all wrapped up in one burrito. The 1980s just beginning after the huge change from the 70s. 79 to 80 in just one night. 3, 2, 1, Happy New Year. 70s to 80s. In the blink of an eye. We had the shit everybody wanted. From the ground up to the top. With the biggest organizations in the world. It was spinning and everything in control. Unlike the people getting out of control. It was mandatory to stay focused and in control at all times. Just hanging out at Big Mama's was a risk in itself. One smoke, you could blow up the whole house, if not the entire block. That's just what we all did when we wanted a block away to do it. Remember, no neighbors and no paranoia. So we simply walked a block away just to go have a smoke. Nobody knew who we were and where we were or what we were doing. If anything, Big Mama was just baking cookies for her kids. Whatever. Windows, doors, always open. No worries. That's how much we took our security to a high level. It's easy. Just don't let anybody know what we do. We all kept our mouths shut. Not looking for the fame only on stage, if not backstage, underground, low pro. All of us involved in this business, in one way or another. Public was completely different from private. This is life, yes or no? Business before pleasure. We all really didn't do much product to stay focused and on our game. Music, movie, sports, art industry, all in the spotlight, public figures, not to mention both sides of the law. Politicians, all two-faced, if you think about it, in the sense that private and public life was very different. The party was backstage, so to speak. If I'm going to put it metaphorically, the party had to be a secret at this level. Like in Las Vegas, as the expression goes, what you do in Vegas stays in Vegas. We all had adopted the same mentality. Everyone in the circle was surrounded by a great deal of trust, reputations at stake, a lot of money. It just made good sense for us to party together, but keep it undercover. Nobody had to know who was doing it. It was no secret in the 80s that everyone was partying, but no names mentioned. Rock and roll and the complete opposite, disco, Saturday Night Fever, disco and rock and roll. That's the 1980s. Everyone had one thing in common, the party. It never got started until my circle of people arrived. After night had turned to day, still cooking, the two great chefs worked hand in hand. Moonlight had turned into sunlight, the sun coming up, the process turning from liquid into dry looking clumps of rocks, then to powder, then change from a dirty yellow to a crystal clear substance that looked like a broken window. Thus we have the name glass. After the process was done, it was time to distribute. That meant a lot of people and places to go. We had to see all the biggest organizations in the world. It was a force to be reckoned with. Full speed ahead. Again, no pun intended. We then went to Oakland to see a man named Blue. he was the biggest distributor there. Not to mention the complete opposite of this older but still crazy white boy was 9 out of 10 people in Oakland were black. Only interested in rocks. They didn't snort, only smoked the green and white. It was a big business with the Crips and the Bloods. We used to visit Blue, as he was called, but told us to never wear anything blue or red. The Crips always in blue and the Bloods in red. So to avoid any kind of conflict between the two biggest gangs, not only in Oaktown, as we called it, Raiders, but California, we had this shit locked down in our pockets. It didn't matter what color you were, the money was always the same. It didn't matter who you were, we would take your money. Not racist in any way. As you remember, I'm a reverend, like a priest, growing up in a black church. We took our shit to the Hells Angels, the Mafia, the Mexican cartel. Business went both ways. We had shit in the glass that, like the other product, green and white, it was all in high demand. Just a little bit of glass, and one wouldn't sleep for a couple of days. Imagine all the business with a green and white, and everything else we could do. Sleeping was overrated. Who needed it? We all just needed to keep on going, non-stop. California was this way. It was Hollywood, baby. Everywhere you went. I went with my bro to the shows and Dean to the discos. It was Saturday Night Fever, Bee Gees, along with all the other great music and people involved. The following weekend, I hooked up again with my bro in Oakland, California. But in the hills, a lot of different from the drive-by shootings in the ghetto of Oakland and nearby Richmond. This night we were in the wealthy neighborhood in the Oakland Hills. Mansions up here, elegant, quiet, different world, lots of money. We were in with a rich crowd of people, mostly big rock stars. I remember out of the window as I saw the Rolls Royce with a personalized California license plate, B. Miles. It was the ex-bass player of the great Jimi Hendrix, now solo with his own band and still rocking. As he got out of the Rolls, escorted by security and his friends, this party was just getting started. Chance of a lifetime to be with all these people, to be a part of this life, only a fairy tale to others. I had finally finished 1982, graduating Palo Alto High School, a big accomplishment in my life. I had made my family so proud of me, and I was also of myself. Quite an accomplishment to graduate from school, as anyone would agree. To finish anything you start is a great feeling of satisfaction. 1982 has come to an end. The Rolling Stones, we were ending the year seeing the Stones live in concert at the Cow Palace in San Francisco. What else can you ask for? What a year. What a life.
And there it is, 1982. More and more adventures to come. I've got a couple more tapes. It's still so strange to just come home and have random tapes on my door when I can't get anyone in Sean's family to answer my messages. Like I said, I live in another city. You can call and message all you want, but if they don't answer, there's nothing you can do about it. But I did track down a friend who's been out of Mexico for several years now, who knew Sean and took a particular trip with him to a pretty dangerous place to acquire some illegal substances sometime between 2002 and 2006. So I'll see if I can get him to answer a few questions and maybe play the interview, record it for the podcast. So stay tuned for that for next week, where we might have a little bonus interview to go on with the next story. Now, Sean hit some hard times after some pretty high times in the as the story progresses, but it's all part of being a Gringo Loco. Hopefully you'll keep tuning in. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to True Story, a podcast by Gringo Loco. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page at Sean Balin Gringo Loco Podcast, and follow us on Instagram at Gringo Loco Pod. Catch our next episode 1 week from today.